I'd like to talk about some not commonly known symptoms of a zinc deficiency. And because zinc is so important in your body, it's a trace mineral. You don't need a lot of it, but if you're missing it, it can create a lot of problems. I think this video is valuable to identify all these kind of abstract symptoms that you may not connect with a zinc deficiency. Now, typically people might know usually that a zinc deficiency can produce a loss of smell because of the concentration of zinc in the sinuses and also in the brain right behind it, which is called the olfactory bulb. And also, if a child is deficient in zinc early on, they're not going to be as tall, okay? So they can have a lack of development. And of course, most people know that zinc is so important for your immune system. So if you're deficient, you're going to be more susceptible to having infections, especially respiratory infections and especially viruses. You may also know that if zinc is deficient, the thyroid might not be able to convert T4 to T3, the active version of the thyroid hormone. And they may also know that it's related to hair loss or thinning of the hair and diarrhea, as well as dermatitis because of the concentration in your skin. And they may also know that it can create some mental agitation or irritation or even fatigue. But I want to explain 7 symptoms that not many people know about. So let's talk about number 1. Okay, we talked about lack of smell, but let's talk about lack of taste. And I'm talking about when you eat food, you may find your food is just bland. It might taste more bitter. It might be more metallic. Number 2 is a lack of flavor, okay, which relates to the something being bland. But with a zinc deficiency, you won't be able to perceive different flavors, which would really suck if you're trying to enjoy your food and everything is just like the same flavor. That would be devastating. So having enough zinc can help you perceive through your taste buds different flavors, which is very, very important in that perception that normally we're supposed to have. Number 3, hypogonadism. Okay, so in other words, the testicle actually shrinks, it gets smaller, which is going to relate to a decreased testosterone. Okay, it's also going to relate to lower amounts of sperm because out of all the fluids in the body, a lot of the concentration of zinc is in the sperm for a survival mechanism and also to increase the quality of sperm. And so this could relate to infertility. And low testosterone is a big deal with men, and so having enough zinc is a real nice way to make sure that your testosterone is at the right level. Number 4, if we take the brain and we look at the areas of the brain that has the most concentrated zinc, the hippocampus comes up as number 1. There's other parts of the brain. The hippocampus normally should have a lot of zinc. So if you're deficient in zinc, what can happen? What kind of symptoms can happen if the hippocampus can't work? Well, let me remember, what was that? Memory problems, an inability to learn, okay? A problem with spatial location. All right, number 5, a higher susceptibility with an infection around your nail bed. So if you've ever had like this red, swollen, puffy tissue around your nails, that is a zinc deficiency. Since we're on the topic of nails, there are some other things too. Like you may have these little white dots. You may also have white lines that go horizontal, and they can actually have different shapes too. But if you see these little horizontal white streaks, that is a zinc deficiency. All right, number 6, a lack of repair. It takes forever for your body to repair after exercise, after an injury, any trauma. So zinc speeds up your body's ability to repair. And number 7, night blindness. Now, typically night blindness is associated with a vitamin A deficiency, but also zinc. Now, I mentioned the hypothalamus being concentrated with zinc, but the retina is also part of the brain, and it too has a very concentrated amount of zinc. And so when you run out of that zinc, it can affect the retina, which is basically brain tissue that's extending out of your skull in your eyeball that allows you to see. and especially at night. Okay. So, anyway, I wanted to cover these very important points. And I also want to mention why people are typically deficient in zinc. Usually it's because they're consuming too many refined carbohydrates in the form of sugar or pasta or cereal, especially, or bread, because not only does this concentrated carb deplete zinc, the phytic acid in the so-called healthy whole grains also blocks your ability to absorb zinc. So when you see things on bread that says whole grain bread or whole grain cereal, whatever, that bran is where the phytic acid is, and that can block zinc. So you might say, well, okay, well, I won't do the whole grain, I'll do the refined grain. Well, then on that sugar can also deplete zinc in another way. There's a really simple way to find out if you're zinc deficient. You can buy a zinc test, which basically is a little bottle with a dropper full, and it has some zinc in it. And you put about 2 teaspoons, I think it's 10 milliliters, okay, in your mouth, and you hold it for 10 seconds. Now, if you are deficient in zinc, you won't taste anything. It'll just be bland. There will be no taste. But if you have sufficient zinc, you'll start to notice it's going to taste metallic. There's a bitter taste to it.